You know how sometimes a single book can just, like, open your eyes to a whole unexpected world?
Uh-huh.
That's kind of what happened when we dove into this absolute unit. Encyclopedia of Wrestling Techniques, Exercises, Fitness, and Health Education.
Right.
You might think, okay, that's just for the grappling crowd, right?
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly broad. It touches on everything from just getting in shape to understanding, well, ancient combat.
That's right. And you see a title like that, and yeah, you expect a very specific, maybe technical manual for wrestlers, coaches.
Exactly.
But what's really noteworthy is that the author, Pratap Chand Dewan, he's got experience in wrestling administration, ex-secretary general. Apparently, he explicitly says he wants this book to be useful for, everyday folks too, people just interested in health.
Yeah, that immediately tells you it's at a much wider scope.
Absolutely.
And this isn't some, like, quick pamphlet either. This is a seriously beefed up version of his earlier work, Modern Wrestling, Ajunik Mayut. And the fact that his previous book actually got him recognition from the head of FILA, the International Wrestling Federation, back in '96. That tells you he knows his stuff.
Definitely speaks to his credibility.
Plus, this new edition jumps from, 273 pages to over 400. That's a huge expansion.
Yeah.
Shows a real commitment to being comprehensive.
It really does highlight the depth. And if you just skim the table of contents, it's kind of astonishing how many areas he actually touches on.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we're talking advice on how to train for the Olympics, sure, but also the really long history of wrestling, around the world, going way back to ancient India, mentioning texts like the Mahabharata and the Purans.
Okay, let's just try and unpack how broad this thing actually is. So it covers health and fitness for anyone, not just athletes.
Yeah.
Natural exercises, scientific exercises, the importance of diet, rest, national and international competitions. But then it gets even more interesting, right? It goes into the global history of wrestling, different kinds of combat you might never have even heard of, specific exercises just for wrestlers, even recreational games they play. It's kind of wild.
And what's interesting is how Dewan manages to blend that really specific world of competitive wrestling with these broader principles of health and training that, well, anyone could benefit from.
Probably.
The fact that he includes topics like managing weight, warming up properly, how to deal with injuries, it shows this really practical, health-conscious approach that goes beyond just, winning medals.
And hey, for the wrestling fanatics listening, don't worry, the core stuff is definitely there. We're talking over 500 different holds. 500.
That's a massive number.
Across freestyle, Greco-Roman, even Oriental wrestling styles, plus drills to master them. But then he layers on psychology, career advice for wrestlers, and even the international rule books from FILA and this newer one, FIWAYO, which is all about promoting that traditional Oriental style.
Right, the soil wrestling.
Oh, and get this. The man has written 15 other books on related topics.
Wow.
He's clearly just completely immersed in this world.
Precisely. So you can see that diving into all of this ourselves, it could take a very long time.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why you, our listener, brought this fascinating resource to our attention. And our mission, really, in this deep dive, is to pull out the most compelling and useful insights.
Right.
We want to give you a real understanding of this multifaceted world of wrestling and its kind of surprising connections to overall health and well-being without getting totally lost in the weeds of every single hold.
Okay, so with this, mountain of information, where do we even begin? How about something that's probably a dream for a lot of athletes reaching the Olympics? What does Dewan actually say about becoming an Olympian wrestler?
Well, it's not just about grinding it out on the mat 24/7, as you might think.
Right.
Dewan really emphasizes a more holistic approach for Olympic-level wrestling. He highlights, obviously, the need for rigorous practice. That's a given. But he says equally important are maintaining a balanced diet and ensuring you get proper rest.
The classic triangle.
Exactly. It's this combination, the dedicated training, fueling the body right, and allowing for that crucial recovery that he presents as basically the fundamental pathway.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You can't push your body that hard without giving it the right fuel and enough time to rebuild, can you?
Yep.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit then, maybe to the historical side. The book dives into the world and Indian history of wrestling and even explores different types of combat. What historical bits stood out to you?
Well, it's pretty noteworthy how far back he traces wrestling's roots, especially in India. He points to ancient Indian civilization referencing places like Aryavart, texts like the Mahabharata, the Purans,
Wow.
suggesting it's a really deep, enduring tradition there. And beyond just the Greco-Roman and freestyle we all know, the book makes a point of including this diverse range of global combat forms. It really expands your understanding of wrestling's history.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing some really interesting, kind of unusual names mentioned. Can you remind us of a few of those less common styles he includes?
Absolutely. So, alongside the expected ones, Dewan brings in British forms like Cornwall and Devon wrestling. Apparently, victory there hinged on specific throws and which body parts hit the ground first.
Huh. Specific?
Yeah, and catch can, which became famous for its submission holds and was actually part of the London Olympics later on.
Okay.
Then there are mentions of French wrestling styles, Georgian wrestling called Tayodoba, and even a nod to the ancient Greek Olympic styles, orthopoly, which was just about throwing your opponent,
Simple enough.
the pentathlon, which included wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
and the really intense pancratium, which allowed both striking and grappling.
Oh.
Yeah, it paints this really vivid picture of wrestling's incredibly diverse journey across the globe.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Just how many different ways people have, engaged in close quarters combat throughout history. Now, for those of us maybe not totally up on wrestling, the book briefly outlines the rules for freestyle and Greco-Roman. What are the main differences he highlights?
Okay, so the key distinction really boils down to which parts of the body you can target and how you can use your legs.
Right.
Greco-Roman wrestling strictly forbids any holds below the waist, and you can't actively use your legs for tripping or leverage. It's primarily an upper body game, focusing on strength and technique from the waist up.
Gotcha. Upper body only, basically.
Pretty much. Freestyle, on the other hand, allows holds on the legs and lets you actively use your legs for both offense and defense. So it's more of a full body style and arguably maybe a bit more dynamic, you could say.
Understood. Greco is upper body. Freestyle uses the whole body more.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into some of the more practical stuff. The encyclopedia has this whole big section on useful exercises for wrestlers, natural methods, scientific methods, even recreational games. This is where it starts to get really interesting, maybe even for someone who isn't a wrestler. What kind of exercises does he describe?
The variety is quite remarkable, actually. For developing specific wrestling techniques, Dewan lists things like the double ankle tackle, the Dahari Kainch, thigh flattening hold, or Bagra, short lift, Dibi, leg bar Pustang, head drags, Kasote, and various drills specifically for leg tackles. I mean, even the names themselves give you a sense of the action involved.
They definitely sound like they're geared towards wrestling moves.
Yeah.
But what about the conditioning exercises? The ones for actually being able to do those holds effectively?
Right. He outlines conditioning work designed to build the necessary strength and agility. These include drills focusing just on leg movements, practicing the Hanuman stance, which is like a deep, wide lunge,
Okay.
pressure practice against a partner to build pushing and resisting strength, and even this rather unique one, snapping onto a tree to build a powerful grip.
Snapping onto a tree.
That's
Seriously.
right.
He also mentions sitting on paws, which probably helps with balance and core stability, various bending PT or physical training exercises, and catching a striking ball to improve reaction time, which is obviously crucial for takedowns. Snapping onto a tree, that's certainly memorable. Now, the book also details exercises that are good for general fitness, aimed specifically at lay people, because he puts it. What are some examples of these, and what benefits does he say they have?
Yeah, this is where you really see that broader health perspective. For overall body fitness, he recommends sit-ups for core strength. One-legged walk, apparently holding your ankle while walking on the other leg for leg strength, and something he calls body smartness.
Body smartness. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Then there's reverse walk, specifically for the back of the legs, jumping forward for agility and coordination, and the slightly adventurous hanging reverse.
Hanging reverse.
Yeah, where you hang upside down from a tree branch. He says it's good for the heart and hand strength.
Wow. Hanging upside down. Sounds quite
Yeah.
invigorating. What other general fitness exercises did he suggest?
He also includes things like parallel bar dips and chinning for upper body strength, throwing a tire for shoulder power, a crossing exercise, which involves like traversing a rope tied between trees, good for arms, chest, neck, and even just cutting grass, highlighting its workout for the arms, shoulders, and legs.
Oh, cutting grass is exercise. I like it.
Right. He also mentions yogic postures like chakrasana, the wheel pose for flexibility and core strength, though he adds a caution for pregnant women. There's the challenging peacock walk, which is a hand balancing exercise.
Oh, tough one.
Vrkshasan, the tree pose, for balance and focus. And simply, running upon the spot is a natural, accessible, full-body activity.
That's a really diverse range, isn't it? From simple bodyweight moves to some pretty advanced stuff. And it's interesting how everyday things like cutting grass are recognized for their physical benefits.
Hmm.
He also mentions specific standing PT exercises, right?
Yes, he does. He details leg stretches, aiming to touch the forehead or the ground, lifting your knee to touch your mouth.
Oof.
Various leg swings for flexibility, torso twists for core mobility, bending and stretching movements that also work the arms, and different kinds of squats done with specific hand movements. It's a pretty thorough approach to using just your body weight for overall fitness.
And to add a bit of fun, he even includes recreational games for wrestlers. What kind of games are we talking about there?
Yeah, these games seem designed to mix enjoyment with developing skills relevant to wrestling. He mentions coach fighting, which sounds like a playful way for wrestlers to spar or interact.
Okay.
There's the Shamrit, which is a tag-like game with specific roles. Blindfold hide and seek or sticked tag, probably good for spatial awareness and agility.
Makes sense.
Mardari, which sounds like a ball-hitting game. And the well-known Indian game, Kho, which really emphasizes agility, speed, and teamwork. It highlights that idea of incorporating play into training, which is good for body and mind.
Yeah, it's good to see it's not all just intense, serious training. Now, inevitably, with any physical activity, injuries can happen. What does the encyclopedia say about wrestling injuries and basic first aid?
Well, Dewan lists common wrestling injuries, particularly dislocations, fingers, elbows, knees, which makes sense given the grappling and joint manipulation involved.
Right.
For immediate care, he advises that someone experienced should try to relocate the joint as soon as possible. He also outlines what should be in a basic first aid kit: bandages, scissors, cotton, antiseptics like iodine and potassium permanganate,
Standard stuff.
and remedies for things like skin scrapes, bleeding, eye or ear pain, even digestive upset.
And what about preventing these injuries in the first place? What advice does he offer?
Prevention is definitely a focus. He really emphasizes the importance of a thorough warm-up before any training or competition.
Crucial.
He also advises against, especially initially, practicing with wrestlers who are much heavier to avoid excessive strain and potential injury. And crucially, he stresses using the right protective gear: knee pads, ankle supports, wrist bandages, proper wrestling shoes.
Good point.
And beyond that, he points out that using correct training techniques itself is vital for minimizing injury risk.
All sounds very practical, very sensible. Now let's tackle a topic many athletes focus on: weight control. What's the book's perspective on managing weight?
Dewan discusses strategies for reducing body fat and overall weight through basically a combination of things: dedicated hard work, running or racing, specific physical training exercises, especially ones targeting the waist,
Okay.
and methods to induce sweating. He does mention artificial methods like steam baths, but notes they're less natural.
Right.
Diet is presented as critical. Higher protein intake is recommended for weight gain, and avoiding heavy fats for weight loss. He even briefly mentions fasting as a way to give the digestive system a rest sometimes.
Seems like a fairly traditional, straightforward approach then. Now, before getting into any strenuous activity, warming up is key, and cooling down afterwards is just as important. What guidance does the encyclopedia give on these?
He explains that warming up prepares the body for the demands of exercise. And interestingly, he suggests activities like sweeping, cycling, spade work, or digging sand, sort of connecting these practical tasks with preparing the body, maybe even the wrestling arena itself.
Practical warm-ups.
Yeah. He also recommends practicing wrestling holds after a training session or maybe in the evening as a way to reinforce technique when you're already warm. And he really underscores the importance of having a coach's guidance to make sure holds are done correctly and safely. That emphasis on proper prep, skill refinement, and coaching is definitely key.
Absolutely. Developing good habits from the start is crucial. Okay, now we arrive at the real heart of a wrestling encyclopedia: the actual holds. The book lists this enormous number of international freestyle and Greco-Roman holds, plus counters. We obviously can't cover all 500, but can you give us a sense of the variety and the types of techniques involved?
Oh, the sheer number is just vast. Dewan categorizes and describes holds from practically every wrestling position you can imagine: standing, sitting, face-to-face from behind.
Wow.
The techniques range from fundamental tackles and lifts, like that double ankle tackle, Dohari Kange, or the short lift, Dibi, to more dynamic throws, like the side assalto putti and the buttocks throw, dock, plus pinning holds, transitional moves, like the standing switch, kari room. He also covers things like leg bars, head drags, and even more complex aerial maneuvers like the high salto, unchi putti. And really, that's just scratching the surface of the initial list.
And it seems like later in the book, he goes into even more detail, right? What are some of the other categories or specific examples that caught your eye later on?
Yeah, later chapters definitely delve deeper. He gets into specific categories like international pinning holds from face-to-face positions, detailing techniques like various Nelson holds, cross body rides, ankle squeezes,
Right.
and he often provides both the English names and, where he can, the original language names. So you see things like waist grip and simple lock grip, Sahara and Pakar, buttocks drive, takarela, leg jump, like tangi kud,
Hmm.
and the quite technical sounding leg pick and cartwheel, Tongri Gum Chakra. There are also holds with these really descriptive names like peeling hands and waist and ankle grip in sitting position, Hath Chirna,
Peeling hands. Sounds painful.
doesn't it? And armbar switch, Sandia Room. It really gives you a flavor of the technical vocabulary.
And it's really interesting that he includes counters, Tor, I think he calls them, for so many of these holds that really highlights the dynamic, strategic nature of wrestling, doesn't it? It's not just knowing the moves, but how to get out of them and reverse them.
Exactly. The inclusion of counters is crucial. It underscores those strategic and reactive elements that are just inherent in wrestling. For almost every attack, there's a corresponding defense or reversal.
Yeah.
This constant back and forth, this interplay, is what makes wrestling so compelling and skillful. He even has sections specifically titled things like international pinning holds from face-to-face positions and the counters given in the book, really emphasizing that critical balance between offense and defense.
It really paints a picture of a constant strategic puzzle being solved right there on the mat. Okay, shifting gears again, the encyclopedia dedicates a pretty significant section to health for lay people. What are the core aspects of health as he defines them in the book?
Dewan presents a very holistic definition. It's not just about physical well-being, but also mental and spiritual fitness.
Okay.
He emphasizes that fundamental human desire we all have for a happy, peaceful life, and how true health is what enables people to really experience life to its fullest.
And what are the main pillars for maintaining this overall health according to the book?
Well, physical fitness and regular exercise are presented as absolutely paramount. The book details tons of benefits: better heart health, lung function, bone density, sleep quality, mood improvement, even faster recovery from illness.
All good stuff.
But it also wisely cautions that exercises should be appropriate for your age and physical condition. Nutrition is another cornerstone. He explains the essential role of vitamins and minerals,
Right.
stresses the importance of a balanced diet, regular meal times, and includes a discussion on the merits of vegetarianism versus non-vegetarian diets, with a focus on digestibility.
It's interesting to see a discussion specifically on vegetarianism in this context. What are some of the key points made there?
The book offers the perspective that a vegetarian diet, especially one with plenty of rice and pulses, can provide enough protein, even comparing it favorably to meat sources.
Okay.
Milk is highlighted as a complete, highly nutritious food. It also touches on potential downsides of non-vegetarian diets like higher cholesterol, and even suggests that vegetarian wrestlers might experience greater longevity and maybe a more positive outlook overall.
Interesting.
But the importance of easily digestible foods is emphasized for everyone, no matter their diet choice.
So a strong case made for plant-based protein and dairy. What other aspects of health does the book cover for the general reader?
Adequate rest and sound sleep are considered absolutely vital for muscle repair, energy restoration, mental well-being. The book gives recommended sleep durations for different age groups, advice on creating a good sleeping environment. It also explains stress versus distress, underscoring the negative impact of distress on health, and urging health lovers, as he calls them, to actively avoid it.
Health lovers, I like that.
Yeah. Additionally, it briefly covers growth during adolescence, the influence of hormones, the importance of our five senses and taking care of them, common minor things like prickly heat and sunburn with basic remedies,
Okay.
and the essential role of doctors and hospitals for medical care. It even includes a brief overview of the circulatory system.
Wow, it truly covers an impressive range of health topics, far beyond just the physical demands of athletics. It even touches on aspirations for a long life and the impact of our habits.
Yes, it discusses how unhealthy habits can contribute to various diseases and shorten lifespan, advocating for lifestyle changes for better health. It even includes this brief mention of surveys on near-death experiences, where people report feelings of peace and light. Adds a slightly unexpected, almost philosophical touch to the discussion of life and well-being.
That's quite a comprehensive look at general health woven into a wrestling book. Now, there's a rather direct question posed in the book. Why did Indian wrestlers not awarded Olympic medals? Given India's long wrestling history, that's a really pertinent question. What explanation, if any, does he offer?
Well, the book notes the limited number of Olympic medals won by Indian wrestlers up to that point. It specifically mentions only the bronze medal from way back in 1952 by Katie Jadhav.
Just the one.
Yeah. It points out that in the first century of the modern Olympics, Indian wrestlers hadn't achieved significant success. The section doesn't really delve deeply into why this was the case, the specific reasons, but just posing the question highlights that historical underperformance on the biggest stage, despite having such strong, deep-rooted domestic wrestling culture.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder what the contributing factors were. Now let's talk about the different surfaces. Soil versus mat. The book touches on this, especially with Oriental-style wrestling. What are the key distinctions and points made?
Right. So traditionally, wrestling in India happened in soil arenas or akharas, and the book emphasizes the perceived health benefits of this, things like improved skin health, getting a natural shine on the body, even a sense of mental peace. It recommends a training schedule that actually incorporates soil practice during warmer months, then transitions to mat practice in winter to get ready for international competitions.
Okay, a mix.
But it also raises concerns that Indian wrestlers weren't always using proper protective gear when training on soil. And there's discussion about the efforts by FIBA, that Oriental-style federation, to refine the rules of soil wrestling to align them more closely with international mat standards, basically trying to bridge that gap between the traditional style and modern Olympic competition.
So, recognizing the traditional benefits, but also the practical need to adapt for the Olympics. The book also revisits diet and rest, specifically for wrestlers. Any additional insights when looking at it through that athletic lens?
It just really reiterates how absolutely crucial a well-balanced diet is, hitting all the macros: protein, carbs, fats, plus vitamins, minerals, water, and getting sufficient rest. Specifically for wrestlers undergoing that intense training, needing optimal recovery. These are presented as just fundamental for maximizing performance and preventing injuries. Nothing really groundbreaking, but reinforces the basics.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Can't perform at your peak without fuel and recovery. The encyclopedia also mentions competition and even entertainment for wrestlers.
Yeah.
Why include entertainment? What's the reasoning?
Well, regular friendly matches are seen as essential for competition prep, right?
Yeah.
It gives them a chance to test techniques in a lower stakes setting.
Sure.
But the inclusion of entertainment and fostering cheerfulness is seen as vital for a wrestler's overall mental and physical well-being. The book suggests that a positive mood, good humor can help relieve the stress of intense training,
Yeah, I can see that.
and might even have a beneficial impact on the body, maybe aiding recovery, enhancing future performance. It's about the whole athlete, not just the physical machine.
That's a great reminder. Even for serious athletes, enjoying it and staying positive is incredibly important. Now, for those interested in the competitive side, the book gives a solid overview of international wrestling rules, specifically FILA's rules. What are some key aspects covered there?
It outlines the established international rules governing competitions, so things like the different weight categories, how long bouts last, the scoring system, how points are awarded,
Okay.
and importantly, what constitutes illegal holds. It also details the specific roles of the referee and the judges during a match.
Right.
And crucially, it highlights those fundamental rule differences between Greco-Roman and freestyle, again, especially about attacking below the waist and using the legs. It also covers procedural things like weigh-ins, the required dress code, the point system for scoring, the different ways to win fall, superiority, injury, disqualification, and what happens with passive wrestlers, those not actively engaging.
And it even mentions specific rules for women's wrestling, correct?
Yeah. Yes, there's a dedicated section outlining rules specifically for women's competitions. It covers age and weight categories, attire requirements, basic competition rules. It acknowledges the growing prominence and formal structure of women's wrestling internationally.
Good to see that included. Now, moving beyond just the match rules, the book also talks about organizing a competition, particularly in the traditional Oriental style.
Yeah.
What are some key organizational elements highlighted?
It outlines the various committees typically involved, like a tournament manager for overall coordination, committees for food and housing, a first aid committee.
Makes sense.
The announcer, obviously crucial. It describes the referee's responsibilities, stopping bouts, enforcing rules, scoring, and the judges' roles in making decisions. The main emphasis is just on needing qualified officials and a well-structured organization for fair, smooth events.
Sounds like a lot of behind-the-scenes work goes into it. And for those interested in teaching, it even covers methods for teaching a wrestling class. What qualities does it mention for a good wrestling teacher?
Yeah, it emphasizes the teacher's personality and approach. Key qualities mentioned are a genuine desire to teach, the ability to command respect, using practice time efficiently, giving clear, standardized instruction,
Uh,
patience, offering encouragement and praise, maintaining discipline, and having deep confidence in their own knowledge of skills and leverage. And it stresses that demonstrating techniques correctly is absolutely essential.
Patience and discipline sound fundamental for any teacher. Now, the book mentions Fila and also Fiwa, Oriental style. Can you clarify the roles of these two organizations again?
Sure. So FILA, which is now United World Wrestling, or UWW, is the main international governing body for modern competitive wrestling, Greco-Roman and freestyle on the mat.
Got it, the big one.
Right. FIBOA, the Federation of International Wrestling Associations, Oriental Style, is newer. It's specifically dedicated to refining, promoting, and standardizing that traditional soil-based wrestling globally.
Oh.
Their goal is to develop unified rules, elevate Oriental wrestling to be comparable to mat wrestling, maybe eventually get it into major events like the Olympics. They really emphasize the unique benefits and cultural importance of soil wrestling.
So Fila for the established mat styles, Fiwa championing the traditional soil style.
All right.
Okay. Finally, towards the end of the book, there's a more detailed look at useful exercises. Any specific drills in that later section that stood out?
Yeah, this final section gives a more in-depth look at drills for specific skills. Examples include various body lift drills for agility and throws, drills for blocking the waist lock effectively, pummeling drills in a sitting position to develop upper body strength, the referee's position drill for practicing escapes, rolling drills, body over drills for reversals, leg graping drills for takedowns, step over drills for countering, and specific drills for holds like the 4 Nelson, sitting switch, and sit out.
Wow, really specific.
Yeah, and it also just includes general terms for exercises that build fundamental attributes: hands lock, hand bar, high leg variation, hips jerk, leg pickup, leg bar, Nelson lock, reversal, reverse ride. Lots of technical terms.
Sounds like an incredibly thorough collection of exercises and drills, really designed to fine-tune a wrestler's technique and physical ability.
Absolutely. It just underscores the detailed, practical nature of the whole encyclopedia. Seems like he really tried to leave no stone unturned exploring wrestling and everything related to it.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the Encyclopedia of Wrestling, it's just so clear that this book is way more than just a technical manual, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's this fascinating, incredibly comprehensive exploration of the history, the culture, the health implications, and just the amazing diversity of wrestling traditions all around the world.
Indeed. It really highlights those deep, often unexpected links between wrestling, physical well-being that extends to everyone, not just wrestlers, and this rich tapestry of global cultural practices. It's a real testament to, I guess, the enduring human fascination with grappling and just the multifaceted nature of athletic pursuits.
So here's maybe a final thought for you, our listener.
Yeah.
Considering just the sheer breadth of this encyclopedia, what do you think really accounts for the enduring, widespread appeal of wrestling? Across so many cultures, throughout so much of history, is it just the fundamental nature of that one-on-one physical contest, the incredible display of athleticism and skill, or maybe something even deeper, rooted in our shared human experience?
That's a great question.
It's definitely something to think about. And look, if any of the things we've talked about today particularly sparked your interest, whether it's the long history, the unique training techniques, or those surprising links between wrestling and overall health, we really encourage you to explore further. There's clearly a whole world of knowledge packed into those pages.